Hello and welcome to the Empowered Couples Podcast, where here you get modern, non-boring relationship advice for you and your partner to communicate like pros, fight smarter, and stay on the same team no matter the challenge that you face. I am one of your hosts, Aaron Freeman.
And I'm Jocelyn Freeman, but you all just know us as the Freemans.
And this episode is about the danger of too much nitpicking and questioning, and then 2 ways to shift to more acceptance.
And I know some of you clicked on this and you're like, I know I probably need to hear this one. This has been showing up in our relationship. And we're going to share a little bit of our own experience because personally, this is something we're working through. And we've been putting a lot of intention and attention the last couple weeks. And before I share that, I do just want to celebrate that we had our baby shower this last weekend.
Yeah, super fun.
Oh my gosh, it was so much love and celebration. We had some people come into town, a few family members, a few friends, and some locals. And it was just really cool. The guys did something which was really fun. You know, I feel like women are often really celebrated for the baby shower, but I'm so glad, Aaron, that you had time with like some really close friends. You guys did whatever you wanted to do. And then we had
I don't know how it normally goes for men. I've heard there are, men type of baby shower things?
I think it's more rare. It hasn't become like the norm yet.
Well, we didn't do like the gifts, and don't think that we sat around and dudes gave me diapers and stuff like that. Essentially, what was happening with people coming in for your side of the baby shower, the male partners that were coming in were also mostly really great friends of mine, best friends. And so I thought, why don't I just put something together just like a men's event? So I just wanted to share because it was super fun. We hiked early in the morning so that got our physical bodies moving, since I knew we'd be inside a little bit more after that. But then we got together. Something we both do is we have cacao and we set our intentions. And so what I set up, and my really good friend Michael ended up leading, was we all got together, had cacao, and all the men shared different things from the questions he prompted, really about what aspects of me they see that are going to make me a good father, sharing just their support, their wisdom, their advice, and really just showed me so much love that I came out of that just feeling like there's no way I can mess this baby thing up.
I love that so much.
I honestly feel so much more confident and ready. There are going to be things that I didn't foresee, but in my energy and my confidence and my certainty and the support I know with the people we have, yeah, I'm ready. Let's get this thing going. So after all that, we then did an ice bath. So really cold water. We had 200 pounds of ice in an ice tub. And many of the guys there didn't have opportunity to ever do this before. So it's amazing. It energizes you. There's so many physical benefits. So with all that, the momentum is building. We did breath work, then we ate tacos, and then did Mario Kart.
Yeah, so all this like intentional body and energy work, and then tacos and Mario Kart.
I mean, yeah, I didn't want it all to be like, quote unquote, serious. You know, you can connect to a certain level, but you know, we're here to have fun and play, and I like playing Mario Kart. I think between me and your brother, we were the winners.
Yes. Well, I am so glad you got that time. And then I did some stuff with my friends, you know, of course, had a shower. And then we even did some joint dinners, and it was just really fun. So thank you all for the love. We've been receiving a lot of DMs and comments from you all just supporting our journey. Our baby's going to be coming here in just a couple months. But
well, I think part of why I shared so much about the baby shower even aspect for myself is, and you were sharing with, you know, our close friends that we've been going through, you know, what you were calling relationship upgrade. And I do like that. We did a course a while back called Relationship Upgrade. And, you know, it's really those opportunities that are showing up for us in our relationship, right? They might seem like conflicts or arguments or tough, not just seasons, but conversations or tough weeks, or we're more reactive towards one another. Maybe we get into some argument hangovers for ourselves. And so, yeah, you can, as a partner, have that be like, this shouldn't be happening. Or like the 5 R's, you can go through that and then start to reconcile what the benefit is. And I think that's where we've been at. So we've had, like 2 weeks ago, we really went through some upgrades that we want to talk about here right now about this topic. Nitpicking, questioning, But then how that led us into what we need here is some more acceptance.
Yeah, what we were noticing was that we were just making more little remarks to each other. And, you know, it was creating sensitivity towards each other, some reactiveness towards each other. We weren't feeling like joyful and acceptance, you know, from each other. And we were just kind of like, gosh, I really can't take more feedback from you. Right? I just need you to accept me, and I need grace, and I need compassion.
Well, one quick thing, maybe give some examples for yourself, because to me, this is different than the feedback. And I want to be clear because we did an episode on feedback, and that's not really what this is. The nitpicking, the questioning, the critiquing, I think, is different than feedback.
Yeah.
So I want to make that note. And then do you have, just being honest and authentic here, do you have some examples from the 2 weeks ago?
Well, the ones that come to mind are like more so what I received from you. And then I'm sure you have your version of what you received from me.
That's what I meant.
Yeah. Well, you know, just even little remarks about like how I could like see something differently, or my mood could be different. So I didn't feel, you know, accepted in terms of just how I was feeling, or like how I was kind of being, like my way of being wasn't okay. And then even just small things like your preferences, like, you know, you really like things a certain way. And I can't right now, my brain is not coming up with like specifics, but just like small things that I would think like, wow, did that really need to be said? Like, did you really need to say that right now? Is that really all that important? And it just was, you know, I don't think we've lived that way before. It was just this period of time where we were making more remarks to each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't think of any specific examples, but for you listening, you know, it might just start as things that you start to notice, like, well, for us, like a peanut butter jar, like it's left out and doesn't get back in the cupboard,
Mm-hmm.
or something about the dishes, and maybe your partner seems to be putting more in there while not putting them in the dishwasher or washing them. So those things start to build up. So it's the preferences, and that's gonna be one of our points here. You just start to notice where you have a preference, let's say for organization, for how things are done in the home,
or with kids,
for leisure time. I noticed, funny enough here, you know, I've noticed a shift in our own podcast. Funny enough,
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I haven't said this out loud to you actually, that it used to be the examples were like around money or
Mm-hmm.
intimacy or communication. I've noticed almost every podcast you bring up kids.
Yeah, well, we work with a lot of parents. Most of our clients.
Well,
are
you're having
parents.
we're having a baby,
Exactly.
and I think that's really why. So so I had to laugh at that
Yes,
actually.
it's very true.
So then it kind of turns into things like that. So going back to you, the listener, the organization, how things are put away, the timing of things, and it could be around finances, kids, intimacy. Well, more so household items. So it's how you prefer things, and you start to notice where your partner is not adhering to that way. Now, then this really starts, I think, for us, because obviously we did the podcast on, we don't really talk about household items ever because we got that handled.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, listeners, go back and listen to that episode. But then it gets into the communication.
Mm-hmm.
So with the communication, then it's like, well, my preferences are, you don't need to share every thought that comes to you.
Or you talk to me this way. You say it this way.
Exactly.
You shouldn't have said it that way. You should say it this way instead.
What was that tone of voice? So what's funny about being like a coach, or you're intuitive, right? Then you start to say the things, well, yeah, but your energy wasn't right, right?
Or it was your tone.
What was that energy? I could feel your energy, your essence was off. Those are the things that started to get to me too. It's like, are you kidding me? Like now I'm getting critiqued on my energy. Like, geez, there's no winning, and that's starts to become the feeling.
Yeah.
So when you're nitpicking or you're questioning your partner, right, it gets this sense of, at least for you, I literally can't do anything right. I've had positive intent, and here you're trying to control me, you're trying to change me, and it gets really frustrating.
Absolutely. And I'd also add, it creates an environment of like kind of being on edge.
Mm-hmm.
Like neither of you can quite like relax, just feel at peace. It's like, okay, here we go. Another little comment, or again, just being on edge and being more reactive. And the other word that comes to mind is like feeling depleted. Right? Ideally, you want home and you want your relationship to be energizing, to be fulfilling, that it fills your cup. But then when this pattern is happening, it can feel more like, okay, being home, being around my partner is actually depleting me.
Yeah.
Which is not obviously where you want to be headed. And it can really lead to your partner and, of course, you, but not feeling accepted, which is a terrible, terrible feeling, and even feel like it's a tit for tat environment.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, oh, this and that. It's like almost like you're both trying to, I don't know, get to a certain number of remarks. Well, or, oh, I'm watching this. Here you go. You did this.
I think because I was actually talking to a guy at the gym this morning about this, and this was happening exactly this way for him. You know, he was saying, I'm literally the most accepting and loving and easygoing person, which getting to know him like he is, like such great energy. And this was happening for him. He said his partner had been much more critical and giving a lot of these critiques lately about all the things that he's doing. He literally feels like, I can't win here. And it almost felt like it forced him into a place where actually for him, he said like anger was building up, right? And it's not his typical personality to express that, but it built up so much that now he started to do the tit for tat, which is bringing up things from the past. Well, you did that back then, and then you did this yesterday, and then because you don't say these things sometimes, you're now keeping a tally of all these places because the depletion happens so much for yourself that, and this is really a principle, right? It's like you have two options. You can fill your own cup or fill the cup of the relationship in any scenario in life. You can build things up or you can bring things down.
Yes.
And what happens in this scenario, you don't think, let me put more into the relationship and build us up and put more love and acceptance. What do? You bring the other person down to where you're at.
Oh, dang. That is so
And that's exactly
true.
what the tit for tat thing is. You are having a tally of all these things. And then because you feel so depleted, well, you could add to it. But no, what do we all do? I'm going to bring up all the things from the past that they've been doing over the week that I haven't been sharing. Sometimes maybe you have, and then you bring the partner down to where you feel you're at.
Oh yeah, and then last thing I'll say, and then we'll transition is because that's so powerful what you were saying. It's like it also creates more of you're repelling each other as opposed to attracting each other. It's kind of like I don't want to quite be around you. And then it spirals and it becomes worse. So it starts as small little remarks. Then if it continues, it builds into what you're saying, which is now becoming tit for tat and both people are kind of tearing down. Then more arguments. Then you don't want to be around each other, right? And it spirals. And so it can start as a small seed and really grow. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we built some great context here. I hope everyone listening is like really feeling the places that this can happen. So let's get into the two principles here. So why don't you take us into the controlling the preferences was the first thing that we thought to go into.
Yeah, well, first you have to check out, right? And because we're going to be talking about two principles to really check out for yourself. Then we're going to go into some questions that you can ask yourself so that you can shift to more acceptance. But the first thing around controlling preferences, you've got to really remember that you don't have to share every thought, every judgment, every complaint, every little thing that you wish could be done your way. It doesn't all need to be shared. And we talk about communication on almost every single episode. You know that communication is like our jam, but communication doesn't mean share every single thought that comes into your mind.
Yeah, especially in the moment that you have it.
Exactly.
I think that's key.
Oh, that's so true. Like communication doesn't mean, oh, I have this annoyed thought. Oh, but you're supposed to communicate. The Freemans say that, so I need to say this out loud. No, it's got to be timing. I don't think we have said that.
Let's just be clear.
No, I'm just making sure that it's not about communicating everything to each other in the moment, like you said. Sometimes you need to reflect before saying something. And you also want to ask yourself, am I really trying to make my partner more like me? Have I stopped accepting who they are, how they do things? You know, it's okay if we each prefer to do this a little bit different. And so you got to just check out, like, have I become a little bit inflexible? Have I become a little bit, I know it can feel really hard to hear the word controlling. I literally have a fear of that. But just like, is this coming from a place of control or being inflexible? Am I trying to get it to be my way?
Yeah, I was talking to someone else. Obviously, you all can tell we have lots of conversations with people. Even when we're not coaching and doing podcasts, it's the life that we live. So I was talking to someone else. I can't remember who it was off the top of my head. But if you think back, I know sometimes we reflect back on when we all first got into the relationship. And when you think about that, it was all about discovering more about that person. So you got to a certain place of compatibility and likes. There was some love and attraction there, right? So now all of a sudden you get to, okay, like we're committed. And whatever length of time that is for you. And then no matter what that person does or says, if you think about it, you're in a 100% acceptance of it. And you're learning more about them. And it doesn't even matter how they share things. It's just all this discovery. And you're excited to learn these things. But then over some period of time, you get to this place where, and sometimes it's when you live together or you start to notice those behavioral routines and those types of patterns of living, that all of a sudden you're wanting to change the things that don't match your preferences, the way you do things, the way you talk, the way you deal with conflicts, how your morning goes, all of these things, and you just start to wear them down. Hey, I'd like to change this. I didn't like how you did that. Maybe we should do it this way, right? And that's just so interesting how you go from a full acceptance and actually loving everything you learn about this partner to, like you said, honestly trying to get them to be much more like you.
Exactly. Well, and so what we want to invite you to move into is more acceptance, more grace, more compassion, which I know those are all kind of like big words to aspire for, but truly like setting the intention in the morning for how can I have more compassion for my partner? How can I see them as like they're trying to do the best they can? Can I like kind of let go of some of this inflexibility and just accept the way they do it, right? Like, and we're going to give you, again, some specific questions to ask yourself in the moment, because I think that those will be really helpful. But that's what we want to invite you into.
Yeah.
Is grace,
and
compassion.
One thing we talk about in the couples workshop is freedom. Now, just the one thing, I know I cut you off there, but I wanted to just make sure I remembered. Think to yourself, by being in this relationship with me, does my partner get to experience more freedom or less freedom? Are they more constrained or limited? They feel like they have to be a smaller person? Or do they feel they have the opportunity with the freedom to expand and become an even better version or bigger version of themselves?
Yeah.
And it's such an important thing to look at, and really just brings us to the likes and the dislikes, the controlling their behaviors and patterns. All this is constraining and having them feel like a smaller person. And I don't want you to feel like a smaller person because you're in this relationship with me.
Absolutely. Amen to that. Okay, let's go to the second principle, which Aaron, I'd love if you shared this one about really, the first one was about really checking out if you're trying to control things and you have specific preferences, you want your partner to be different. The second one is about committing to changing your perspective. Do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I'll tell a story here because I've been sharing with another friend. These are all different people. It's funny, I keep on saying this. I have lots of conversations about relationship. But for him, he had been sharing with me over the past couple of weeks that his perspective, because that's what we're going to be going to change, his perspective 2 weeks ago was about, well, my partner is always questioning like where I'm at. So in a couple of different ways. Number one, also around their finances, questioning why did you spend money there or what was this for? And then saying that's not how I would have done it. You should have done it this way when it was actually his own business. Then like in the home, just always saying, why don't you pick things up? Your shoes are over here and the dishes are over here. So just always kind of making comments about, how he was organized or cleanly in the home. And then the last kind of big one was, he would go to like a yoga class, for instance. And if he wasn't back like to the minute of where he was, she would be messaging him, where are you at? And then he would get home and she would say, well, who was in the class with you? Who did you talk to? What did you talk about? Why did you talk that long with him? So all of these specific things. And it was really frustrating him, like, get off my back. There's no freedom here. Like, I can't even live my life. And then similar as we had said, the tit for tat, he started to say, well, I don't mention anything when you go out with your friends. So you get this whole sense of the dynamic, right? So then I talked to him about, what if you just change your perspective about it? Just see those things differently. And he was like, maybe. But he actually did it over the last 2 weeks. And he just shared with me this morning. He said, whenever any of those things happen, I literally just think to myself, I'm so glad I have a partner that's so interested in me. Mm-hmm. I love it. I have a partner that is always looking for places that we can be connected, that wants to be connected with me. And this wasn't like a quote unquote positive thinking BS thing that some people think it is. Changing this perspective actually had him start to feel differently about him and his partner. And it really was an amazing change, because some people that have gone through a divorce or are not in relationship or have, let's say, broken up recently, they would love to even have a partner, have someone show that kind of level of interest and engagement. So going back again, at some point, you're like, oh my gosh, I have this person that's so interested in my life, which then turns into sometime later, get off my back. You're always questioning me. Mm-hmm. And so just that shift in perspective has had him literally feel completely different about how supported and loved he actually is.
Well, and I don't want anyone listening to think like we're saying never talk to your partner about shifting something, or you need to quote unquote tolerate something forever. I think the key thing about changing your perspective is when you change your perspective, you change your automatic behavior, and then that can break the cycle of how you normally interact with each other. And that's what you're trying to do, right? So normally his response would be like, rah, and he'd react back and it'd turn into a fight and stop asking me this. And then she'd get, her response, and then it would be this whole vicious cycle. And so changing your perspective doesn't mean never talk to them about change, or, hey, I'd like to, if we moved away from this behavior and did this instead. But changing your perspective has you change your default behavior, which then breaks the cycle. And that's the really key thing that you're looking for. So we're not saying deny, your thoughts or your feelings and never discuss it. It's just, I think, powerful when we change our perspective in the moment. I don't know, it opens up a new opportunity for actions that you take.
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, it changes your experience. Mm-hmm. And then your experience of something is what changes your behavior. And that's actually then a cycle. When you change the behavior, that ends up changing your experience about it. But I want to be just more straightforward with this conversation, this podcast, because some people come to us at some point and say, well, my partner is really doing this, and it really means this. I'm like, first of all, the first piece, go and work on your perspective. Most people are not doing this kind of work. So I don't want to hear from you. I don't want to hear from you from this podcast about your partner does this and they need to change this until you go and you do the work on your perspective. My friend is such a great example. Go and do that. And I don't want to hear you talk about what your partner is doing until you've actually gone and changed your perspective and had that actually change your experience and drive new behavior. Once that's done, then maybe you can come back to us and we'll talk about changing behaviors and talking with your partner, communicating with them. But it's got to be the other thing and then this thing.
I love that bold invitation. And now we want to provide a few simple questions you can ask yourself in the moment before you go and make the comment, or the nitpicking remark comes out, or you question them. So the first question you can ask yourself is, before I share this, is this going to benefit them? Right? Like, is this comment, is this thing that I'm about to say to them going to benefit my partner? Or is it not? Is it going to actually impact their day? And it actually is going to tear them down. It's going to have them lose energy. It's going to have them feel worse about themselves when maybe they just had a hard day, or they worked really hard, or they've been with the kids. Is this remark or the thing I'm about to say going to benefit this person that I say I love?
I want to actually add one thing. I didn't think of this before. Maybe they actually made a mistake. Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, they actually didn't make the right choice or decision. And I guess it's funny because talking about kids, right?
Or they didn't do it perfect. I'll add that. Like, they didn't do it the normal way.
Yeah, and maybe they even know that, oh, yeah, man, I really would do that differently. And I'm saying this because as we look at parenting, we don't want our child to fear failure. That's one of the biggest problems why people don't pursue who they're really meant to be, because early on in their life, they're always corrected as kids about don't do this, do it this way, you did it wrong. And then so you try not to make mistakes. And that's not, I mean, come on, that's not what life is about. You have to make mistakes to learn about yourself, to have new experiences. So I say all that because can your partner make even one mistake to you? You know, you're a partner. So when they do make mistakes, do they feel they're going to get immediately criticized and they try not to make mistakes?
Wow.
Or do they feel like they actually have the freedom to make some mistakes and you're going to be right there with them?
That is so good. Second question you can ask yourself is kind of simple, but I think it cannot be asked enough is this really that important, or am I just being inflexible? I definitely need this question sometimes because, as if you know our communication personality types, I fall into assertive, inflexible. By the way, if you don't know what we're referring to, go listen to our episodes, and also on our website, you can take a quiz to find out your communication personality type. And all you have to do is go to meetthefreemans.com and you'll see it right at the top. So I default into assertive, inflexible. So I know there are moments where I'm just being rigid. I just want it my way, but I have to ask myself, is this really that important? Or am I just being inflexible? And that helps me change my perspective. You know, life, we only get so many moments. We only get so many opportunities to interact with our partner, especially if you guys are busy. If you have, I know we keep saying kids, but it's just like such a top of mind thing right now. Kids, your work, your business, other things you have to help and take care of. You only get so many moments to interact. And do you want a good majority of your moments, or even a few, to be where you're saying things to each other that don't make each other feel good or that just deplete energy? So really, is it that important that they put something exactly where you want it? Or is it really that important that they, are being a certain way right then when maybe they had a tough day? That's what you really got to check out. Is this truly that important right now?
And to actually get a clear answer to that, you have to pause to give yourself some time to reflect on it. We talked about down-regulating your emotion, because if we ask you that question right when it happens, you're going to say,
so important
this is
right
so
now.
important.
Because I'm feeling annoyed, and when I'm annoyed, it's important.
Yeah. It's not aligned with me how they put the dish in the dishwasher. So it's
ruining my day right now. No.
So you have to give yourself a gap for that emotion to downregulate, so that you can not, we're about emotion being present, but not the reactive emotion. A lot of your emotion is reactive, and it's coming from this whole pattern of likes, dislikes, beliefs you've been forming. So those emotions, in a sense, are not, let's call it pure, because they're coming from past sort of negative patterns. So you have to give yourself the time to really look at where that emotion comes from. Then you're in a spot to say, is this really that important, or am I being inflexible? Yeah.
So then the third thing you can really kind of have a conversation with yourself on is, if you do realize that something actually is important to you, rather than saying it in the moment, like you were just referring to, Aaron, and it comes out wrong, it makes them feel not great, then you don't feel great instead of all that cycle. Take a moment, reflect on it, and then go, okay, if this is important, I would actually prefer this to be different, or I would like to work on this together. Then come to them in a calm manner at a different time probably, and tell them you'd like to have a conversation about it, an intentional conversation. But the little micro remarks and the nitpicking and the questioning, because you're trying to shorthand your communication and you're trying to make it quick, and hopefully if I make this remark, they'll know that bothers me, and then they'll stop. No, come back to them, have a meaningful conversation. Hey, I've been reflecting. I realize something that's really important to me is blank. I'd like to talk about that, create an agreement around that. Then it can be more constructive. So sometimes it's a timing thing in the way you approach it, if it really is that important to you.
And I have one more analogy as we close this out here, and you bring this one up more than me, but it's the pop bottle analogy. So you have all of these things that are going on in your relationship, and maybe you don't bring them up in the moment. So you have this buildup of emotion, and if you don't have a way for that to circulate out, then like a pop bottle, if you kept on shaking it, it's going to build up the pressure until what?
It explodes.
Just explodes. So you have to have a certain process for you to unscrew the top. I was just thinking, are there even tops? There's
bottles now. There's
still,
yeah.
we
And
don't
people
drink
do
soda,
cans.
so
People do the cans a lot,
yeah.
but there are bottles.
So I think we can go with the top. You have to have a process to untwist the top to let a little bit of the pressure out so that you don't blow up. Now, think about that for the moment. When you have emotion come up, you do need a place to, as we've said, downregulate or release some of the internal pressure that you have. Now, here's the way that's not going to serve your relationship. And this actually came up in a coaching call last week or the week before. If you really think about that, every human being needs to move that emotion, right? You can't let that build up. And maybe it's like, I just need to be understood about that, or I just needed to say that. But what he would do is after a conflict, they'd be separate. And then all of a sudden, some time later, he would bust into the room, yell out his complaint at his partner, and then just leave. And when we were talking to him, he literally did think that, well, I'm resolved about it because I just needed to say that out loud. And so the thing I want to take away is, to your point, did you just add, more emotion? Did you come in and, kind of cut your partner down all because you need to feel that release of emotion? You just need to notice what is the outlet for this circulation of emotion.
Yeah, great point. Okay, so we've gone over quite a bit here. I think it's important, and what we're inviting you into is to really check out if in your relationship, if you're going through a season of more nitpicking, questioning, can you move to more acceptance? Can you move to more release of control and being inflexible and have more grace, compassion for each other? And we've gone over 2 principles, looking at really controlling preferences and committing to change your perspective, because that has you change your actions. And then we also provided questions you can ask yourself in the moment. Covered quite a bit here. Now, we know there's a lot of new listeners, and you may not know that we have an epic book. Yes, I'm calling it that. We have a couple books, but if you haven't read our most recent book, The Argument Hangover, highly suggest taking advantage of the extra bonuses that we give you, $200 worth of bonuses when you enter your receipt number at theargumenthangover.com. And so it also has all the retailers linked there, and it's a great guide for you to communicate better and fight smarter, and really repair after conflict is a big thing. So again, go to theargumenthangover.com for that. And we just love connecting with all of you, and we so love receiving DMs and comments on Instagram, which we're Meet the Freemans there. And with that, everyone, we will talk to you on the next episode.